You need to get out there and do more marketing, and you need to rethink how you're handling Game Pass, because it might just take 2 years for Valve to steal all of your market share before the next gen even starts. Welcome to Broken Silicon, a gaming hardware podcast. I am your host, Tom, and this episode is brought to you by Wondershare Recover It. Get a free trial in the link below, and then also there's another link to cdkeyoffer.com where you can get Windows 11 Pro for just $24. Dan, co-host. Some people have been mad that I've been forgetting to say you're a co-host in a lot of recent episodes, but there, you got it, guys. How are you doing?
Okay, I guess I'm mad too then. I'm pretty good. I don't know. Tired, but
you seem a little tired. I can tell the episodes when we're starting, the less goofy accents or jokes you're doing when you log on, the more it's like, oh, Dan wants to get rolling. He's pretty tired after work today.
Also, I brought it up a couple episodes. I've been getting extra tired lately because recuperating from a knee injury, so that plus 12 hours of work really takes it out of me. So
because again, you work in a lab where you work, typically there's overtime days sometimes as well, but it's typically like 3 12-hour or more days and then days off. And so recuperating from a knee injury plus, you know, basically I won't say you have a nurse's schedule. Some nurses would probably get mad at you, but
no,
closer to that than a normal work week.
Yeah, so, we're starting to heal up, so that's good. But it's been an odyssey figuring out what's wrong with my knee. So finally, we're at a point where things are starting to get a little bit better. But I learned I probably need to walk/run a little bit less.
Dude, it's almost like we're brothers. It's been a thing for me, too, where I have been going on late night walks. Like I used to, like I'd have like a drink and talk to you before I go to bed, like on the porch or something. And I'm like, instead, no drink. And how about I walk the dog? But that's been, I really enjoy walking the dog, especially at night when it's quiet out. And so I will walk sometimes for an hour and a half, 2 hours. And then I'll also walk an hour in the morning. And it's like, it's getting to a point where, especially if I don't use good shoes, it's like, well, I'm walking. I can't just walk 10,000 steps a day every single day, or it could wear out my ankles. Like that's what it's coming down to.
Yep. So I'm trying to get some new hobbies. Thinking about getting more into, I guess, aquascaping, whatever we want to call that. I've wanted to start an aquarium for a while, and yeah, you gave me the bug. I was planning on getting fish or something. Then I saw the shrimps at the aquarium store, and I was like, I get why Tom wants all these shrimp. They're really cool. So I'm going to get some shrimp too. Maybe get some. And then if I
my desk right here.
Then if I start another tank, I'll probably get some frogs or something because I've always wanted a frog tank too. So we'll see.
Yes, for those who don't know, the tank that I'm almost have completed is a mild brackish tide pool biome with ram's horn snails, a couple Nerite snails, Ope Ula shrimp, which are only native to tide pools in Hawaii. And then I'm thinking now we're looking for least keely fish for those wondering. And these are
I'm going to get the most keely fish.
You're going to get the most. Screw you, Tom. I'm getting the most keely. And these are all hardy, brackish animals that are extra small, so you can make this tiny little biome. I'll probably put a few videos up as well so people can see where it's at. And actually an issue I ran into is the shrimp might be too happy. Like I built caves for them, which you can see if you turn the tank around, but I don't really want to because it's in a corner of a room, and they love it in there. They're very happy to never come out, actually, it turns out. And so it's almost like seeing a deer at night in a city. We're like, oh, there's one of them. They're alive because they just hang out in their giant cave network that's been built.
Well, if they reproduce maybe you'll get to see more of them at least.
Yes.
But at
and they do come out every now and then.
At least they're happy, Tom.
Yes. All right. Let us move on to what we're supposed to be talking about, which is gaming hardware. First, of course, with corrections. Carbon Cry writes in and he says, Tom, I am forced to respond to the NPU slander from Broken Silicon 332. NPUs are here to stay. Yes, GPUs can do more than them, but they are inordinately more power hungry, and even enabling it partially to run a lighter model wastes a lot of power compared to an NPU. For normal usage, laptop NPUs are going to continue to be a godsend, I think. Even on desktop, say you are editing a picture in AI-enhanced Photoshop, AI-enhanced, and then you can work in silence and do previs and AI image tests on the NPU, only rendering full res and quality on the GPU later when you want it to, or you can keep your X90 class GPU on full blast to generate everything all the time. Which one would you prefer? It's even more absurd for office tasks, of course, though. Gaming devices are different. A PC or laptop spends maybe 20% of their time gaming. That's already pushing GPU and paying the power overhead. But a PS6 or a gaming handheld will spend 99% of the time gaming with GPU going full tilt. In that scenario, an NPU does not make sense. It seems like he's saying that this idea that we would use NPUs for gaming might not be an incorrect assertion, though, that we're making. And for those who don't know where this comes from is, and again, the usual caveat, I don't technically know this for a fact, but I do know that at a minimum, in all PlayStation 6 documentation I've seen, there's never been a reference to an NPU. Not in like, we need to have this. Like they'll say, we need backwards compatibility to PS4. Sorry, doesn't mention PS3. And like all these other things. And then there's never, oh yeah, we need an NPU. Magnus mentions NPU with Xbox multiple times. So there's some people suggesting maybe that's for advertising. Hopefully not. Or maybe it's just because it is going to be a hybrid PC, so it wants to have that. But I don't know. I think we should at least call into question if even like gaming handhelds need it as well. Like if you are gaming, and again, I brought this up before, the 9070 XT has like 1500, 1600 tops. What is the point to 100 tops NPU with RDNA 5? If by then you might be like to 3000 tops, you can run a small task on the GPU in parallel, which it seems like Mark Cerny and AMD are working on for RDNA 5. That would probably make a lot more sense than wasting space on some big NPU. Although, I don't know. I guess we'll see. But yeah, I will say specifically in phones and laptops, I think NPUs might be here to stay.
Especially
but I'd like
phones.
to see especially phones, because me and you brought this up, Dan, in laptops, they just don't seem to be getting used, which is what made us call that into question.
And of course, we can eat our words 3-4 years from now if locally ran AI models are actually become somewhat useful in a while, because as they exist right now, they're not very useful in my opinion. But I am always willing to be wrong that AI will be more useful than I currently think it is.
Sure. Yeah. All right. Compressed AI Blocks writes in and says additional information for the 3050 6GB brought up in Broken Silicon 334. The reason these cards can still be popular, which I brought up that they're usually in the top 20, but only in France did I see them in the top 6 or something. But he says they can be extremely popular for small form factor builds. Think a half-liter Lenovo M720Q style build. For those, your only options right now, honestly, are like a 3050 6GB, a 6400, or an A380, at least until people start releasing RX 7400s as a single slot. Yeah, I guess, but I'm going to say, I have to imagine half of the people buying these have dual slot low profiles. And if they do, I looked it up, a 5068 gigabyte is over three times faster than a 3050 6GB. I don't know. I mean, sure, if you have a single slot, by the way, this makes me call into question why all of these desktops don't have dual slot support. How much space would that really add to most of these small desktops? It feels kind of ridiculous to me that any of them would still go with single slot, even if not for gaming GPUs, just to make sure whatever expansion part you put into your workstation, it can fit it. But I don't know. I feel like there are some other single slot ones as well that are better, but maybe
you can also get a lot of, I don't know. There's a lot of, I would like to see like at least the low end and even mid range cards. There to be more releases of low profile cards still get released, but I don't know. I do think case designers have really gotten creative, and you can just have a full dual slot discrete card in a pretty small case these days.
Also, compressed AI blocks. Now I'm going to issue you a correction because something occurred to me. Oh, how the turn the tables here. The 3050 that was popular in France was a full-size dual fan card. So this does not apply to you. And I stand by. I just don't think most people buying 3050s, are they getting them to get one of the cheapest NVIDIA GPUs they can get that will fit into any case for video out? Yes. But if that's the case, spend the extra $150 to get 3 times the performance with a 5060, let alone the myriad of other options that I also think are better.
Or maybe they're pulling the heatsink off of it, Tom, and making their own low-profile cards. Ever thought of that?
I remember I saw in a forum like a decade ago, maybe I guess it must have been 15 years ago or more. Like I want to say it was like a 4870 or something, and this was back in the time where some motherboards would have half-length slots. He actually took a saw and sawed off 8 of the PCIe lanes. It worked. Just ran it times 8. I just wanted to point out there. So I will say, Dan, I have seen people, including me, by the way, like take off parts of coolers to make them fit inside of cases. It does happen, Dan.
It can work.
But yes, I do not think that's what most people are doing. Okay. Just like I do not think most people will take into account a lot of the odd arguments I've seen online against the product we are talking about next with story number 1. Valve announces Steam Machine to massive fanfare. Quoting here from Tom's Hardware, Valve rattled the gaming industry in 2022 with the launch of the Steam Deck, letting you take your PC games anywhere with an easy-to-use operating system. Now the company is taking its learnings from that device and bringing them to your living room in a new gaming PC, the Steam Machine. This is a system meant for living room play, armed with a new semi-custom AMD Zen 4 CPU, not really, we'll get to that soon, and an AMD RDNA 3 GPU, and running SteamOS just like the Steam Deck. In many ways, it's really just a Steam-based console. Indeed, after the years of rumors, Valve has finally made the next step in their gaming hardware master plan and made a real home console. With low-end, although not peasant-class, PC specs that point to performance slightly below the PS5, unless FSR4 makes a big difference for it, of course, Valve is taking the Series S strategy, making a cheap device that is good enough. In fact, the Steam Machine reminds us here at Moore's Law is Dead of what we wanted the Xbox Series S to be. A cheap console everyone can afford, which can also run desktop apps. Unfortunately, though, of course, the Series S did not run desktop apps. And fortunately for the Steam Machine, despite us having some concerns about how much VRAM it has, technically in total, it has 2.4 times the RAM of the Series S, making us think that it will, though require low settings a lot of the time, probably be more future-proof than the Series S. Now, this all depends on price, though, of course. But the good news is that according to my math, Valve can sell this for $500 comfortably. In fact, if they wanted to take a small profit, maybe even remove the controller, $450 or lower could be possible as well. And what's interesting about $450 or $400 is that is the current price of the Xbox Series S, despite the Series S having less than half the performance and not being usable as a desktop. Now, we are not saying this is how much Valve will charge. I'm not promising you $400 or $450, but they could if they really wanted to. Genuinely, I did this professionally. Actually, I saw Digital Foundry also backed up my information this weekend. And so I think it's very, very likely this will aim for less than $500. And at a minimum, again, whether they do or don't, they could have. No, they could have if they don't. As for performance, look, it's not the latest and greatest. Valve did not choose something flashy. They picked cheap hardware that AMD is likely clearing out from their warehouses at a discount to get rid of them so they could get something for the lowest price that would be okay. But okay is a lot better than apparently 70% of gaming PCs on the Steam hardware survey, according to Valve. Oh, and this tiny box is coming out in early 2026, sometime before the next gen of consoles, where Microsoft is instead going with a super powerful, but then, of course, also expensive Magnus hybrid console to compete with it, setting up a fun battle now between Orion and Magnus in the high end, while Steam Machine and Canis fight each other in the low cost segments. Also, a big plug, one of the biggest tweet I ever put out with like hundreds of shares and like 10,000 likes. It's on, that was my leak that they were going to announce this the day before they did. Just a reminder, there is a Moore's Law Z Twitter account with over 30,000 followers. Subscribe to Moore's Law Z on Twitter right now and check out some of the tweets. I do put leaks out on Twitter as well that you don't sometimes see on YouTube. Right, Dan, what do you think?
I mean, It looks very nice. Like
in terms of how it actually looks.
Yeah, just from a design standpoint, I think it looks very nice. And I don't know, it seems a little weak to me, but I guess that seems to be what Steam or Valve's MO is make a relatively not underpowered, but relatively weak device that maybe sets a new like minimum standard for what you can expect on Steam. So I don't know. From that perspective, I think like this being like the minimum standard on Steam for like, I don't know, 1080p gaming or whatever seems pretty good. The obvious spec I like the least is the 8 gigs of RAM. I would love to see that have 12 instead, but
even 10 gigabytes
or 10, yeah, whatever.
My complaints basically.
Yeah, I would have really nothing negative to say about the specs of this if it had 12 or 10 gigabytes of RAM, but we're stuck with 8, so that's, or I should say VRAM. So that's the one thing I'd be concerned about for this as a relatively future-proof device. Like I if it had 12 gigs of RAM, like sure, a lot of the time it's probably going to be doing medium or low specs settings, but I don't know. I think it would run games for a really long time, even if it's at low settings. With 8 gigabytes, I get a little worried that some games in the future might be hard to run. But, I guess we will see. Like that's... I hope 8 gigabytes is enough for this to be like a pretty good, damn good entry level gaming PC for the foreseeable future. And I don't know. I do think the massive amount of interest in it is interesting just because we don't really know a price yet. Like, because if this thing is too expensive, I don't think it's that interesting. And I am curious if this is still just a relatively niche device, like that they only put out like, I don't know, several million of them, or if they really are going to try to like penetrate into the console kind of space with this. Because I don't know, I feel like Valve products always generate a lot of hype and interest, but they're usually somewhat niche. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it depends what you mean by that. I mean, Steam Deck, it's niche relative to the Switch,
Yeah.
But compared to like literally any other device, it's not niche. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, I guess as far as handhelds go, I think it's that has to be still the handheld, right? Like I don't think anything is outselling it.
But I think it will end up selling 5 to 10 million, whereas the competition is lucky to get to a couple million.
Although I do think for like to the handheld conversation, for the amount of discussion it gets in PC hardware spaces, those handhelds are pretty niche form factor to begin with, as evidenced by that. But this, I don't know. I'm very curious to see what Valve is trying to do with this, because I feel like some of the discussion is they're going to trying to take the console world by storm, and I don't know if that's how Valve works. Like I could see this just being a weird product that they put out that, is relatively hard to get for a long time because they just don't sell that many of them, at least to begin with.
Yeah. Well, a few things about the specs. Number one, don't forget that this is running SteamOS. This is not running Windows. So just flat out, in terms of system memory, I'm not worried about the 16 gigabytes at all. You can just add 3 gigabytes. True. You can almost pretend like this has 20 gigabytes of system RAM, which will be enough compared to any Windows PC. That's number one. Number two, regarding the VRAM, yeah, look, that's the number one thing about the specs I don't like. Completely agree. But it is going to run a bespoke OS that is still going to manage that memory a bit better. And it is a single piece of hardware that devs can optimize to, like they have for the Steam Deck, assuming it sells at least okay. And I think it might sell very well. Like I'll have Gerard put on screen here that Indiana Jones in the Great Circle, considered a graphical showcase game, just got official Steam Deck support. I saw that recently. And yeah, look, it's running at a low resolution at 30 frames. But this game, I checked, its minimum requirements are 8 gigabytes of RAM, and yet this will probably allot 4 gigabytes to the VRAM section. If you want, like, this is running on 16 gigabytes total in the Steam Deck. So if they could make that game, which is a great a ray tracing showcase game, run at 30 frames per second,
there might be hope for this.
Like optimizing system of, I think that you apply that to this and it's fine. And don't forget that, look, in total, it has 24 gigabytes of RAM. That is 50% more than the Series X and the PS5, which will be supported for the next decade, or at least the next 5 years, we can say. And the way I would put it is, hey, look, I think it won't even have issues pretty much at all. I mean, yes, you'll find one game. Don't quote me on that. But like, it probably will have almost no issues until 2 years into the next gen console life, because that's when the first games will start rolling out that are, besides a handful of launch titles, maybe, that actually were built for the next generation and start to show the age of the console. And even then, I think it's pretty simple. Devs will have a custom texture pack. They will turn down those textures for this device, and they will just tweak a few things. And yeah, it'll be probably the equivalent of 1080p low. But, you know, I think that's probably, or, you know, 4K medium with ultra FSR 4 or 5 turned on, something like that.
Yeah.
But I still think it all comes down to price. There's no such thing as bad products. There are only such things as bad prices. And if this thing's under 500, especially if they went for 450 or 400, I just think no one complains, because plenty of people have said they think the Series S looks good enough, or even the Steam Deck looks good enough. This is 2.4 times the RAM of the Series S. I think it will look good enough to really budget gamers in a way that the Series S didn't, because Series S launched in 720. When the Series S launched, Microsoft promised 1440p gaming, and what they got was a launch game, Assassin's Creed Valhalla. Digital Foundry found was often running below 720p to hit 60 frames. I think this won't have. Do you agree? I don't think this will be as bad as that.
No, I think.
And if this ran Windows, I would say don't get it.
I think even for the time, this because yeah, PC hardware specs I feel like have stalled out a little bit, to be fair. But I think even for the time, this 8 gigabytes isn't as bad as, what is it for the Series S VRAM? Is it 4? If I'm remembering correctly?
Oh well, it's just 10. And then there's like a 2 gigabyte segment,
an
8 gigabyte segment. And so technically you could use, but I guess what you would probably say is no more than 8 gigabytes for VRAM technically. Okay. But let's be honest, it's not going to use that, because it's going to need at least 4 gigabytes. Not to mention the OS, I think, takes up like what, everybody listening, at least 2-3 gigabytes. So you're looking at 5 gig. You're basically trying to fit a Steam Deck into the series. Well, it has less RAM than the Steam Deck. So yeah, I don't know. Honestly, I get why devs complain. Like me talking out loud, the OS uses at least a couple gigabytes. It's segmented memory. I honestly don't know how they get any of these games working on Series S. This is a very different situation.
Like, I think this is less immediate. This doesn't appear to be nearly as underpowered, or I guess depending on what you mean by underpowered, isn't underpowered like compared to the Series S was when it came out. I think this is the way you put it is, this is a very entry-level gaming PC, though. And it will be for the foreseeable future. I think it could be a massive shot across the bow at Microsoft. Like,
and to a degree, Sony.
Yeah. Like, this is our warning shot. Like, this is our actual competitor to Windows at this point for gaming hardware, or for a desktop environment. Like, we're actually competing with Windows now. We have the Steam Deck. There are a few other handhelds. Here's an actual PC that runs Steam OS, and I bet Asus, Lenovo, or several of them at least, have their own Steam boxes that are going to be put out within the next 2 to 3 years, and those are probably going to actually be not entry-level gaming PCs.
Icebar writes in, could the relatively low specs from Valve be an indirect invitation for other manufacturers, like Lenovo, to build higher-end Steam machines like we have been seeing with gaming handhelds, where Valve is offering the baseline and then letting other people fill the more premium roles above it? Absolutely. And that's why I've seen people say that they should go for the more, like Mr. Tiger wrote in, I believe it was, and said like Valve said that they were surprised how well the Steam Deck OLED sold. So why are they going for budget when they said back then that the OLED made them think they should go for more premium? It's like, first of all, guys, look, Mark Cerny said the PS6 is launching in a few years. If it ends up launching at the end of 2027, nobody should freak out. I mean, I think sometimes we hyper analyze the exact wording people use too much. And I do it all the time. So I'm not saying you should never do it, but it's like a few is supposed to mean 3, but can lightly mean other things.
Mm-hmm.
And Gabe talking about the Steam Deck OLED, suggesting they should go for more premium devices, isn't him saying they will only go for premium devices,
or even what he could mean. But I guess we need to watch the interview. But like the way I think of it, even premium meaning like top tier gaming performance. Like there's a difference between high build quality premium and powerful premium.
It's true,
because
and the OLED had good build quality, but weak specs.
Yeah, and to me, I guess I would need to see it in person. Maybe it's a flimsy little piece of crap, but the Steam machine looks really nice to me. Like it looks well built. I like the customization. I really like the chassis. Like it's a nice looking little box.
Yeah. And so moving on though, on that note, like they have to go for market share first. They're trying to beat Microsoft. They're trying to stop Microsoft from being able to move the Xbox fans to PC and strangle Steam and then make everyone get Game Pass. You're not going to do that with a $1,000 box. You have to go for market share first. And then once you get market share, you upsell people. And I think Valve will be happy to let Lenovo upsell people. And what's so funny about this is Valve will establish the platform and the idea. And then it wouldn't surprise me if a year later, or a year, like when Magnus launches, Xbox Magnus, or a year after Xbox Magnus launches, there's already an Asus or a Lenovo console competing directly with Xbox Magnus. And that's going to be a problem for Microsoft to get Magnus off the ground if you have this ever-ending Me Too competition, but Me Too products with better operating systems.
Well, yeah, and I just think with Valve is definitely a software company that dabbles in hardware, but it feels like their hardware is an advertisement to other people that make hardware more than anything. Like, hey, this is our new environment. Look how nice this new Steam machine is. What do you guys want to come on here and build the nicer versions of it for us? Because I don't know, that's what they did with the Steam Deck, and I think I don't know why I would expect this to be any different than what they were doing. Them trying to repeat what they did with the Steam Deck with the desktop.
Mm-hmm. This piece of content is brought to you by Wondershare Recoverit V14 and their AI-powered data recovery tools that help you restore files on Mac OS, Windows, or really anything, like even an SD card from a broken drone, with ease. Via AI deep scan technology with device-specific programming, it can specifically and quickly find corrupted footage or pictures and reconstruct them more efficiently than ever before. It's an all-scenario data recovery tool that allows you to recover data from a variety of data loss scenarios, such as accidental deletion, formatting, device corruption, virus attack, or any other unknown error code. It is very easy to use and supports one-click recovery of videos and picture files and the repair of unplayable videos as well, which, let me tell you, there have been broken silicon recordings in the past where only a part of a guest video was corrupted, but it prevented me from watching more than like a minute of the video. And in the past, I had to actually jump through a few hoops to find a backup cloud recording. And if that wouldn't have worked, I would have been in a lot of trouble. If I had Wondershare Recover It at the time, that could have just fixed the file and I wouldn't have been in any trouble. And you know, they also have exclusive support for Apple video and image codecs, full compatibility with macOS 26 ecosystems, and full creative design, project, file recovery for apps like Final Cut Pro and Photoshop. So if you want to support Moore's Law is Dead, click the link below to try out Wondershare Recover It for free. Seriously, in the description, there's a link for Moore's Law is Dead fan that will let you download a trial for free. And if you do this thing that costs you nothing, it helps out Moore's Law is Dead a ton. So please do check out Wondershare Recover It V14 through the link below today. Continuing this, AI independent George writes in and says, is the Steam Frame and Steam Machine also going to technically be an Xbox? Well, that's the funny thing. Probably not. I actually put out a tweet right before we started recording, where I saw something from Jimmy Champagne, huge friend of the show. I love talking to him, even if it's not on a podcast. And he pointed out that Eurogamer / I believe, or is Digital Foundry just on there? I don't know. Anyways, he quotes Eurogamer as saying, right now we plan to distribute the Steam Machine the exact same way as the Steam Deck. This was a question a lot of people had. Like, are these gonna be at Best Buy, or are you gonna have to log into Steam and then order it directly to your address?
Mm-hmm.
And it seems like, at least at first, that's what they're going to do. And I pointed out, this is actually an important reason why they might be able to keep the cost very low, and why they've been able to keep the Steam Deck's cost low. And I pointed out that the business case for subsidizing, which means selling the Steam Machine at a slight loss to a slight profit versus going for a big profit, it's a better business case to do that with the Steam Machine than it will be with Xbox Magnus. Here's why. To order the Steam Machine, you need to log into Steam, meaning you have an account, and you need to order it. And then when you boot it up, it will boot up into Steam, the most popular storefront that you have an account on. Most people aren't going to bother to do anything else, at least not right away. They're going to check the Steam sale, and Valve will know, even if we only make like $30 per unit sold. Not saying that is what they'll do, but let's say that's what it was. They know that they might make another $30 the second
immediately after you get it.
Yeah, immediately after you get it. So let's subsidize this cost. Conversely, with Microsoft's Magnus system, you're going to be able to just download Steam right away, they claim. And I think most people will to bypass the Microsoft store. Furthermore, if you want to use Game Pass on the Steam Machine, you're going to need to manually install a different OS, which most people will not do, and do so knowing that Windows will run all of your games slower just to get Game Pass. So you have two business cases here. Microsoft's, where most people will not want to buy from the store, and they're supposedly not going to stop you from buying from their store, and Valve's Steam Machine, where you will want to keep using the more efficient OS, and it can't install Game Pass. So,
yeah,
I mean, I just want to point that out to people that are like, oh, Magnus will be fine. This is this. From a hardware perspective, Magnus looks awesome. From a mid-range to high-end gaming PC, for less than a mid-range or high-end gaming PC, it sounds very interesting to me. But in terms of market share, if Valve went hard and advertised this thing, I just named a few reasons why they might be able to sell this for like a third the cost.
Oh, yeah. And just as with SteamOS as an environment, if this is just the start of it, like by the time Xbox Magnus comes out, who knows? Maybe there's already something for Xbox that competes directly with Xbox Magnus from a power perspective.
And Valve doesn't care. They all sell Steam games, whereas Microsoft cares. They don't all sell Microsoft games.
Yeah, and SteamOS is actually well optimized versus whatever experience or OS or distro they have at this point that doesn't seem to work or actually give you any benefit for gaming.
Yeah. So another thing I want to point out about this too, I don't know if I had it like as a follow-up to what someone said later or what, but it's a note I at least wrote down that I should bring up in this video. And it's that genuinely, I think Xbox is in even more trouble than most people realize. Obviously, we've talked about all the problems Microsoft's had with Xbox over the past few years. We don't need to relitigate all of them, but whatever you think they are now, I think Steam Machine makes this all even worse, because I cannot tell you how many comments I have seen on YouTube that say things like, my son has an Xbox Series S, or I've been scraping by with an Xbox Series S for several years, and then I can't wait to get the Steam Machine in early 2026. Remember, Xbox Magnus targets Series X buyers, but Series X buyers are only 20% of Series sales. Steam Machine targets Xbox Series S buyers. Xbox Series S buyers are 80% of Series sales, and it's launching a year and a half before Magnus, eating up 80% of the target market, while Microsoft goes to actually a niche part of what is Xbox now, Series X owners. I'm not trying to be mean. You are niche. You are not most of them.
Well, and the other potential Series S buyers are similar demographic that could have gotten a better Series S if it existed. Are people that are like frustrated with gaming PCs and probably haven't upgraded in a while. So that could be cannibalizing an even further potential like low end gaming PC market. So yeah, I mean, I think if Steam wants to go or Valve wants to go for it, I think they could have a huge market for this, at least just based on the enthusiasm I'm seeing online for it and like what you just laid out. I just am not sure if like that's what their goal is with it.
Yeah.
Although if they want Steam OS to take off, do it.
And if you're Valve, you know, it's not to say that everything they've done is some massive success, right? The original Steam Machine rollout did not really go well.
Yeah,
although it gave us Steam OS, which continued to evolve and eventually was using the Steam Deck. It's not like it was a waste of their time, but no, yeah, they're not all home runs over there. Totally agree. And I would say the original Steam controllers really just kind of fell flat. I know. Don't put the pitchforks down. Put the pitchforks down, PC gamers. I know there's a large amount of you that love the Steam controller. I'm telling you, when I've been to gaming tournaments, they're all using PlayStation or Xbox controllers. Yeah. No one's using this. So don't kill the messenger.
I've never used one, but I don't feel like I would like that design very much. Although the trackpads are cool. Clearly a hit because it's gone into 2 more designs. So
everyone says they love them.
Maybe they're great.
So I'm not saying the new one won't succeed. I'm just saying the old one didn't. Valve doesn't have a perfect batting.
And the new one looks good. But
yeah, I think it looks more interesting than the first one to me. But anyways, having said that, if you're Valve, you're going, yeah, maybe we don't have a perfect batting record, but our last thing, the Steam Deck, crushed it. And we kind of wish we would have bought more capacity for that. And so I think there's a chance they may look at this and go, hey, our instincts were right last time. Lately, our instincts have been very good. We think this will work. We're actually going to make this very aggressively priced. We're going to go hard because we've got it. We've almost killed Microsoft's competition with us in gaming. Those guys tried to screw us with games for Windows Live. They tried to get us with some Xbox stuff, and they're about to go to war with Steam again. And Game Pass, the entire concept of Game Pass would kill Valve's business model entirely if it succeeded. If you're them, you're like, we were right recently. We should double down because we could steal half of the Xbox market before Magnus comes out. And if we do that, we've won, and we won for keeps. So I just think Microsoft really, really, really should rethink what they're doing in the meantime, because it kind of seems what Microsoft's plan is in the short term is to just fuck around for 2 years and then launch Magnus. Like, we're going to make an $800 Series X. We're going to make we'll probably make the Series S cost as much as the PS5 before the gen ends. Like, we're going to just completely just be in the corner, beating it. That's what we're going to do. I don't think you can afford to do that, Microsoft. I think you need to rethink what you're charging for series consoles. Even if you're done making them short term, you need to sell some. You need to get out there and do more marketing, and you need to rethink how you're handling Game Pass, because it might just take 2 years for Valve to steal all of your market share before the next gen even starts.
And I just think the big if on all of that is if that is what Valve wants to do, because Valve is just a weird company and I never understand their goals versus other companies.
Yeah, who knows what Gabe's worried about on his $500 million yacht right now. But I got to say, if I was him, it seems like a fun way to spend your time is screwing over Microsoft. I mean, you don't need more money. Come on. Yeah. Compressed AI Blocks writes in and says, Tom, is the greatest Xbox of all time the friends we made along the way?
Sure.
Ultimately, I think it is.
I think the greatest Xbox is Rise, Son of Rome, Tom.
The best Xbox game of all time. Dark Helmet writes in, imagine it's 2027. Okay. How do you think SteamOS
700 days. Got it.
Moving on, like that's just all we do is do the math of how many days. How do you think SteamOS running on a mini PC compares to a PS6? I mean, look, it's not as optimized, but it's probably closer to the PS6 than it is to how inefficient Windows is, if I had to guess, actually. Will there be an APU available that will compare to what the PS6 will have?
I hope
in
so.
2027. I mean, Grimlock will, maybe not at launch. The PS6 is a little faster than Medusa Halo, right? It is faster than Medusa Halo, but before probably even a PS6 Pro comes out, Grimlock Halo will beat the PS6. So it's not, I don't think it's going to be like this generation where the PS5 comes out and then a bloody 5 years later we get an APU that beats the PS5 in Strix Halo. I think it's going to be 2 years later because this is a new segment. Strix Halo was just the start of it. But now in terms of comparing Steam to, like, if you wanted to compare the Steam machine, I don't think it really is a comparison because the PS6 is going to be like 3 times faster and 6 to 12 times the ray tracing and have probably some bonus features. But the Steam machine will have its own bonus features as well and a huge library. But that's why I think under 500 needs to happen, with room in the future for them planning for like at least a $400 price when the PS6 launches, probably for like $650 or $550, but requiring a disk drive and paying for online. So they can make the argument that like our package is half as much, even though it's a third the performance, but it's more than enough to play the games.
Yeah, and the just I don't know. I do hope 2 years from now, if Microsoft hasn't gotten its act together, Steam OS itself, just as an operating system, has taken off way more than has taken off, and I've migrated to Steam OS, and maybe I have an APU on it. Long shot, but I'm hoping at least that's where we're at if Microsoft doesn't get its shit together with Windows by 2027.
Dead AI writes in and says, as Valve makes the Steam machine a home console, I think they should start thinking about some level of app integration for media consumption. Just don't put ads on it ever. Not for the usual scope creep, therefore, but just for convenience. So you keep eyeballs on Steam that will see Steam sales more often. You know, add Netflix, add YouTube, add Peacock and HBO, put in the minimum effort to have SteamOS have native like consumption apps built in. Yeah, I don't think that's a dumb idea. I think that's a very good idea.
Oh, and once again, this goes back to Valve. Never knowing what they want to do with anything, but if they really are trying to launch a competitor to Windows, at least gamer Windows or something like that, yeah, I think it needs to have all of that functionality. Like I think you want, like, at a minimum, the functionality, and at least the way they're advertising right now with the apps they're showing, like, you want to be able to do productivity, you want to be able to like watch YouTube, Netflix, everything on it. So yeah, like I think that's an essential for it if their goal is to actually launch a competitor to Windows.
You know, maybe I'm just trying to like make this more interesting than it really is, this part of the episode, but I have to say that might be one of those things to watch for that will tell you how serious they are about Steam Machine long term. And it was why the PlayStation TV, originally Vita TV, was obviously not serious. It launched and it didn't have Netflix support. It was, of course, the micro console version of the APU in the PlayStation Vita. It looked really cool. They're like, it's going to be $100 and you can get, you know, maybe not PS3 performance, but pretty close. And it's so portable and cool. And then they announced, oh, yeah, there's not Netflix on it. And it's not going to have, I think, most apps for, I don't know if maybe it had Hulu. I don't remember. Maybe it had like one thing like YouTube. And it was like, well, then you're not serious. The way to tell if Valve is serious about this really, really competing as a console is if they announce it has all of the standard streaming apps and stuff built in, and they flesh out like kind of the Steam app store a little more. Again, not trying to directly compete with Android, iOS, or even what you see from the Microsoft store, but just that little bit of, so people can buy this, plug it in, log into YouTube, log into Netflix and keep watching, and then boom, flip over and I don't know, play Half-Life 3 eventually. Let's hope eventually they'll play that Half-Life 3. Okay, let us now move on to story number 2. Valve also announces Steam VR and a new Steam controller, which we mentioned the controller a little, but didn't go fully into it. Here we go. Quoting from Valve. Steam Frame is a streaming-first wireless VR headset plus controllers that can handle your whole Steam library. You can step into immersive VR or lean back and enjoy your non-VR catalog like you're using a big screen. And it supports standalone play as well, much like the Quest 2 or 3. So Yes. Also in 2026, Valve will launch the follow-up to the Index, trying to re-inject some enthusiasm into the waning VR gaming space. The Steam Frame is designed to be wireless and require minimal setup to use, possibly removing significant obstacles to adoption. Yeah, I saw like you just need a very modern, I believe, USB port. You plug this into your PC, boom, instant connects to your headset and streams it with low latency. It's not hard for me to set up my Quest 2 to Steam to play Half-Life Alyx right now, but I imagine it needs to be you turn it on and you use it. And I think that's what they're trying to do here. Also, the specs look nice. Even the onboard APU seems more than enough to run standard Android-based VR experiences in standalone mode. The tech press, who had a chance to try it as well, has also noted how light and comfortable the headset is compared to other ones. With many high-end VR devices, ergonomics sometimes seem like an afterthought and end up just being plain too heavy for prolonged use. A similar focus on ergonomics shows in Valve's last big announcement, though. Their new controller, building up on the unorthodox design of the original Steam controller, the refinement of its principles in the Steam Deck, Valve is sticking with the touchpad areas while also adding in a second pure traditional gamepad stick. Well, the Steam Machine seems to directly target Microsoft there, and the frame is clearly poised to take on PSVR and Quest as the default VR headset once again. And again, just like the Steam Machine exploits Xbox's console mistakes, the Steam Frame might also exploit Sony's mismanagement of PlayStation VR too. Also, I thought before throwing it over to you, Dan, I just like say some of the specs. Yeah, so it has 2160 by 2160 resolution. It is only LCD though per eye, but it is a pancake lens, meaning that it's less distorted. Yeah, very tasty and less distorted and clearer
than like a Fresnel lenses.
Fresnel, yeah, lenses. And so its resolution is slightly higher than the PlayStation VR 2, despite not being OLED. Overall, the quality is probably pretty close to Sony's. Worse color, but maybe more clarity and a slightly higher resolution. Everything about it kind of just seems to be like a slightly better Quest 3, which people might forget this, but years ago, I showed and backed up with documentation the BOM cost of the Meta Quest 3 that is kind of the standard right now. And I came to the conclusion that this thing here, if they were aggressive, just looking at it, they could have easily gone for, depending on how they configured it, for probably like $400 or something. They ended up going with $500, demanding a higher profit margin. And so I just think that's worth pointing out that if Valve, unlike Quest, certainly unlike what PlayStation did milking the PSVR 2, wants to go for market share again, I think they could. I think this thing could cost $399 or something. Who knows? Maybe less. But
how much does the Quest 3 cost again?
Its MSRP is $500. I don't know what its sale price is or something. But
I mean, seeing this, it immediately looked like it. Right, like this is obviously going less for a more cheaper than the what's Index, I think. So the
Index is like 1,000, right? Or something silly.
Yeah, I would really hope I don't see this go for more than like 600, but like you said, I hope it's 400 to 500 or something like that.
Yeah. So again, I'm not saying I'm promising 400 here. I think it could be 500 because it does just kind of seem a bit better than the Quest 3 in a few key usability ways, let alone debating the specs. But I do think that the Quest 3, which should cost about the same as this, could have always been 400 or something, and I think they could do that again with this. Could do that with this if they really wanted to, but we'll have to see. Also, fluctuating RAM prices. I mean, that's a big, an ugly head that's reared itself in the room. So we'll see. I said it weird, Dan, but I did kind of say it correctly. Don't make fun of me. But let me see here. I don't know if you have any other thoughts about this.
Not too many. I mean, I think obviously they both look both the controller and the headset both look like very nice premium devices. But honestly, there's a bunch of other videos about more hands-on, and I would just more or less be parroting what I can interpret from seeing it already. The one piece of insight, I guess, maybe I have that I'd be worried about for the VR headset success is, do you think there's a chance like they missed the boat on VR with this, or do you think this could reinvigorate VR? Because I'm not sure if VR is. I don't think it's a fad. but I like 3D. But I do think it's going to be on the back burner for a while. I feel like whatever the Apple thing was called, I can't think of what it's called right now. Like, I feel like
that one did.
That almost felt like the last nail in the coffin of VR to me, at least for the time
Apple
being.
Vision Pro.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah. So I guess what I would say is the Vision Pro is what barely missed the fad. And anything after this isn't part of the fad. We're just going to see if it reinvigorates it. I think what would make this get a little traction is literally any big game to sell it well. Like when you
if they Half-Life 3 or whatever came with as like a follow-up to Alex, that could sell a lot of units,
God, it'd be massive. Or anything, Left 4 Dead 3, something. Yeah. Left 4 Dead 3 would actually be a pretty good one for that, I think. Or some Left 4 Dead-ish game. But I think what's happened with VR is, yes, interest waned, but I'm sorry, there's no way around it. It waned partially because companies got greedy or forgot what they were doing. Like the whole reason the PSVR 1 sold well and was the best-selling VR device for a while is because it was the cheapest. And because it was a console, it just kind of worked. I mean, yes, it had this ridiculous Rube Goldbergian setup, and it like could have used more performance. Although I did play the Resident Evil 7 on a base PS4, and I actually found it quite playable.
And I will say with the PSVR, even with all of its, what would you say? All of its quirks, all of its kind of jankiness, because it was a little janky. Like
you turned it on and you played the game.
VR was actually there, like from a technological standpoint. I think even the PSVR 1 had enough to like, oh, you actually would want to spend time in this environment versus like, what was it, the Nintendo VR, which I've put one of those on. I've put one of those on before, and it's awful. I don't know why anyone would buy it.
Well, and for the time, it was easier to use. I mean, you didn't have to set up a bunch of light boxes all over your room. It used like the PlayStation Move stuff and a camera. So you set up one camera, not four. Yes, it's cabled and it's a bit goofy looking, but it is a console, so you don't have to download mods or figure out crap. You literally turn on the PlayStation, game boots up, it works. It did have a usability. It did have a pricing advantage against the competition, a massive one, and that's why it did so well. And then PSVR 2 comes out, and it's like the number one god dang thing Sony should have done is made it wireless. Yeah. And they didn't. They made it wired, and it cost too much money, and then boom, gone. No one gives a shit, Sony. Like, you got to keep up with the times. The Quest 2 also was the most popular, and they jacked up the price a ton and haven't innovated on the performance at all. Like, they should have gone all out for something in the performance, or like found a new base system to pipe it to it wirelessly. And so I guess what I will say is, am I betting that the Steam frame starts a new VR revolution like we saw in 2012 through 2015 or whatever? No, I am not. But what I will say is that it is doing the things its competition stupidly did not do recently. And we have been getting this thing. I think this is something I talked about with Sally. It's Bradley, who, by the way, will be the next guest. And also, I believe I had on a VR engineer at one point as well, too, or something, I believe. But like, you can't just... You can't ignore that as much as VR seems like it's stagnated and become boring, it has gotten 10, 20% better every year since people stopped talking about it. And maybe Valve's about to swoop in and be like, and again, I'm not saying this will be the price. I could see it being $500. But what if they swoop in and they're like $349, you plug in a stick to your desktop, and it insta boots up the VR game without any issues or modding whatsoever. Maybe these are all the things people were annoyed about, and it weighs less. It's not the same as just being able to throw on glasses and use VR. But it's probably as close to that as you're going to get for the next 10 years. And because of that, it might surprise people how well it does. And if they can just have, again, kind of like the Steam Machine, a new baseline that's better than the other baselines, maybe that will make more of devs try to make more games again, and that can reignite it, right? It'll be the spark, but not the flame that starts it again. I could see it.
And maybe I'd be a good candidate to try it out again sometime, because I don't think I've used a VR device since PSVR 1, if I'm remembering correctly.
Have you still not tried out my Quest 2?
Nope.
Oh, well, you should. Half-Life Alyx is incredible.
So maybe I'd be like, oh my God, this is so much better than the PSVR 1. Although I did have a lot of fun.
I told you.
I did have a lot of fun with the PSVR 1 too, though. And I get motion sick. I have weird motion sickness things. So the fact that I even like that is saying a lot, I think.
It's testament to how fun it was.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I will say I tried the Quest 2 years ago, and I own one, actually. And
yeah, I think you've had it for like 3 years, and I've just never used it.
I used it for about a year, though, and kind of stopped using it much. But I will say that when I used it, I was like, oh, yeah, this is a lot better. Like, it is that much better, in my opinion. All right, let us finally move on from Valve stories, although, come on, everybody. This is what real competition looks like. Aren't the conversations so much more interesting when we have another person to talk about who's trying out things and we don't just go, AMD this, Nvidia this, Xbox this, PlayStation, a new entrant, a real new entrant, not just one of the normal companies we've been talking about for a very long time doing something again. It's actually a new, it's much more fun.
And I feel like Valve stuff is like 80% of what I have to talk about this week anyways. So, you know what I mean? But we'll see.
We'll see. This piece of content is brought to you by cdkeyoffer.com. cdkeyoffer.com is the best place to get reasonably priced Microsoft operating systems and Office products. And, you know, they've been a key sponsor of Moore's Law is Dead, if you can believe it, for over 5 years. And they've remained a key sponsor for all of that time because they've just been reliable. I've used them for practically every PC build I've done throughout all that time. My family members use them. My friends use them. Like, no joke. I have friends reach out like every month, like, hey, I'm building a PC. What's that Office website you use? And I say cdkeyoffer.com. And I say the same thing to the Moore's Law is Dead community. No complaints. The tens of thousands or really hundreds of thousands of Moore's Law Dead fans have been using them for all this time as well with no complaints. So if you are looking to get fairly priced Microsoft software, go to cdkeyoffer.com during their Black Friday super sale. This is where you can get the best prices, and if you do, make sure you use offer code BrokenSilicon for 25% off all Microsoft products, and then Die Shrink for 3% off everything else on the website, because they do sell games as well. You should check them out for that too. And one more time, thanks after dozens of ads with them, some holding a dog, some not holding a dog, and yeah, check them out. cdkeyoffer.com. I should put my dog down because I don't know how much longer I can get her to behave like this. Although maybe it'll be a long time. She is kind of a baby. All right. Story number 3. RTX 50 Super allegedly delayed to Q3 2026. Now note, everybody, before I get to the write-up, I'm not necessarily saying that will happen, but every now and then everyone talks about something, and so I think we have to talk about it. But anyways, Tech Power Up writes, according to multiple sources from Hong Kong and Taiwan, NVIDIA's upcoming mid-cycle refresh of Blackwell Super GPUs isn't canceled, although add-in card partners are still waiting final specs. And HK EPC reports NVIDIA informed AICs yesterday, add-in cards partners yesterday, that RTX 50 Super is not canceled, but that the release date has been postponed to Q3 2026.
Woo!
So just a few news episodes ago, we had an update on the launch of Blackwell Super. Back then, the plan was to launch Super in Q4 2025, maybe with the 5080 Super being a 2026 launch. The planned refresh would have, like Super always does, fixed the lineup by giving cards the appropriate amount of RAM they should have had from the start, boosted clocks a bit, maybe enabled extra SMs here and there. But as we reported on the last news episode, DRAM prices are going through the roof right now. Well, some of it is now a classic market shock, like panic buying, driving up prices even higher than they should be. A lot of the price rise is organic and might not be going away. So putting A, Super getting more memory and requiring more memory, and B, prices going up, especially they say for DDR5 and GDDR7, which Super would rely on, together, the result seems obvious. Super is likely to get delayed or canceled. Now, to be clear about what's being reported right now, sources from Taiwan have confirmed to add-in card partners that the 5,000 Super plans have at a minimum changed and that people should expect a launch in Q3 of 2026. Meanwhile, our own sources have confirmed that technically Super has not been canceled and that people should expect delays, although no concrete communication was told to anyone I spoke with. So honestly, our take here at Moore's Law is Dead is that Q3 2026, that's likely a placeholder. It's probably going to be either sooner than that or it's going to be canceled, because specifically that quarter, a year away from now, Why would you bother refreshing it that late? By then, next-gen GPUs will be on the horizon anyways, and if NVIDIA cannot get super out by Q1, or I would say maybe Q2 next year, we honestly think they shouldn't bother at all. Again, it could just be a placeholder, like something in a file that they put there because it definitely couldn't be before that, and it's really just waiting to get canceled, like many things we've seen from Mark, by the way. On a final note, I added this last minute. I've seen a lot of websites attack Moore's Law is Dead for dates changing about Super, and then they themselves reported dates changing a month after attacking me. Go yourself, guys. I mean, you're so full of shit. I'm just going to say it. And you don't know, your sources don't know anything when you regurgitate NVIDIA's talking points if they just change it a month later. Furthermore, I saw some fake leakers saying, jumping on the Q3 2026 confirmed bandwagon. After putting out a leak that RTX 6000 launches Q1 2027. Let me say this. If this launches Q3 next year, 6000 is not launching Q1 2027. It would be launching late 2027 or 2028. It's one or the other. Either both Super and the 6000 series are severely delayed due to shortages, or Super is canceled. Nothing else makes sense in my eyes. I guess we'll see if I'm wrong.
I mean, if this is coming out in Q3 next year, then I don't know. I guess we have like a 2.5, 3 year generation this time around. And something happened with the 6000 series, or maybe nothing happened, like
RAM
you
shortages,
said.
And there's still an AI boom. I could see them pushing back the 6000 series half a year or more because they just don't care about gamers.
Yeah, or maybe nothing's going wrong with the development of the 6000 series, and they're like, we're gonna milk this AI totally not bubble for as long as it lasts. Because no, I don't think they're gonna put out the 5090 Super or 5080 Super and then in 3 months release the 6080. But I don't know how much I have to say about this other than if they're delaying it to Q3 2026. I don't know. Just don't put it out then. Unless what you mean by Q3 is July 3rd or something, 2026.
I
then
guess
maybe
that's
it's
technically
okay.
Q3, but does it ever mean that?
It usually means the latter half of the quarter they're talking about. But if it comes out at the very beginning of Q3, go for it, I guess. Other than
that,
as
long as 6000 is mid 27, I still don't think it makes sense to launch that close.
I mean, the 6000 series needs to come out. I feel like at least 9 months later, ideally a year after the Super series, but I don't know. So like, I guess if it's late Q2 2027, maybe that's not terrible, but that's still pretty soon for the Super series.
I don't think that I have that much else to add to this, simply because I think the write-up, which is pretty lengthy, perfectly canceled all of it. We don't really have much to say about this, but we thought we had to talk about it for a decent amount of time because, well, everyone else is talking about it as well. And so I'm sure some of you are, well, I know some, I see it in the comments, every piece of content I put out about literally anything. Zen 7, what's happening with Super is the response half the time. So we had to talk about it. Carbon Cry writes in, Tom, with the shocking news of the 5090 being effectively end of life, which does not mean canceled, everybody who hates on this channel, how will the poor citizens of Singapore fare if they can't buy their fourth or fifth 5090 as per NVIDIA's earnings reports? Should we start organizing humanitarian relief efforts to save them? Carbon Cry, I bet they'll be able to get their sixth one just fine while NVIDIA ships very few 5090s to gamers in the United States. Don't worry. Techno writes in, by the time the DDR5 pricing peaks, do you think Apple's RAM prices in their laptops will look reasonable?
Maybe.
I mean, honestly, maybe.
Or they'll start charging $1,000 for 16 gigs of RAM or something.
No, but I've thought about this. I know some AI products use like LPDDR5X, and so there's, but most of it is DDR5. Most of it will be GDDR7. So like, there's a chance. Two things. I put a short out about this on Sunday with Ancient Gameplays that's actually doing very, very well. But I think there's a genuine chance like an RDNA 4 refresh maybe just shouldn't use GDDR7. Maybe they should just push it to 3.5 gigahertz, give it 32 gigabytes of GDDR6, launch an $800 9080 XT. That's, maybe trading blows with the 5080, but $200 cheaper at double the RAM. And then you can actually buy it. Like, and also the fact that low end RDNA 5 GPUs, and by low end, I mean 9060 XT tier and lower. So not like crap. Those all use LPDDR5X, maybe LPDDR6. I wonder if these shortages were to roll into the next gen, if AMD would like accelerate their APUs, which use these low-end GPU chiplets, and then launch first like LPDDR5X, RDNA 5 GPUs to take the mid-range market. Well, Nvidia just can't even make any dedicated graphics cards because they all use GDDR7. I don't know. It's an interesting thought. Like, there's some real advantages here with AMD's products moving forward, because GDDR6 pricing hasn't gone up. Someone checked today in the Discord and like sent everyone, like, it seems like it stayed stable.
Do you think that? I guess we'll see. I feel like that would knock-on effects or cause it to go up eventually, but I don't know. I've been wrong before.
Well, it just depends what everybody's buying, you know. And if everybody's buying Hopper with HBM or Nvidia chips with GDDR7 or DDR5 servers, I mean, nothing's using GDDR6. That's AMD may have a massive advantage. I hope they take advantage of it. If they do. All right. Speaking of AMD, let us move on to the first AMD story in this episode with story number 4. AMD Zen 7 Grimlock fully leaked. I'm going to be doing a lot of goofy voices with Grimlock because it's so much fun. Grimlock. Okay, let's move on to the biggest story we broke over the last couple of weeks. If not, honestly, the biggest story this channel broke over all of 2025, Zen 7 Grimlock. There's a ton of information. So for anyone who hasn't yet, please do go watch the video. But just to refresh the main points in order to properly start a conversation about it. Number 1, Zen 7 is composed of even more dies than the Medusa family. Mainly for gamers to know, there are 2 CCD types. Now, this isn't entirely new for AMD to do this. With Zen 4 and Zen 5, they already had specialized C-core CCDs for server, but with Grimlock, AMD is also having multiple die options for desktop and laptop as well. There will be a 16-core Silverton chiplet, but also a lower cost 8-core Silver King. Now, both of them are Zen 7, not Zen 7C. They both will get 2 megabytes of L2 and 4 megabytes of L3 per core, which is an increase from the previous gen, and overall cache per core. Exciting. But only the larger Silverton 16-core CCD gets access to Vcache layers. This time, by the way, being made on 4 nanometer and offering 160 megabytes of Vcache on top. Yes, by the way, that means if you add it all up, a 32-core will get 448 megabytes of L3 in a hypothetical 10970X3D2, which I think is quite exciting. Again, so it's not just more L2 per core, and it's not just the fact that they have more cores, that it has more L3, by the way, everybody. I think right now with X3D, a layer adds 8 megabytes of extra L3 per core. This adds 10. So this is just a massive uplift. Also, they will be using the A14 node. So again, a notable node improvement over the 2 nanometer nodes that will be used with, or 3 that will be used with Zen 6. And on top of that, though, I will say the Silver King 8-core does not have support for Vcache, as it is predominantly meant for laptop, and then the bad yields to low-end desktop. But we do think this is a good strategy and allows AMD to maintain presence in the 8-core market segment as it moves into the low-end price point. Also, the 8-core CCD makes Grimlock's point family work. See, just like Medusa, Grimlock Point, the monolithic APU this time, will have 4 Zen 7 cores on the IO die and 8 Zen 7C cores before low power cores, which I don't know how many it might have. But then in addition to these 12 cores, it can add a single 8-core Silver King CCD to get to 8 plus 4 plus 8 to probably plus 2 low power. This is a sensible CPU focused design for laptop, great for designs that want to be compact and cheaper and not add the extra 8 cores, but then add the extra more powerful cores when you're adding a dedicated card as well. Also, in addition to this Grimlock Point, which is also called Grimlock 1, there's Grimlock 2, 3, and 4. So 3 other variants of the APU that are probably cheaper. I do not know their specs, but I have seen them referenced in documents. Of course, additionally, there will be Grimlock Halo as well, with on the IO die, 8 Zen 7 cores, 12 Zen 7C cores. So 20 cores built in before adding chiplets. And they can add 2 8-core chiplets as well for a total of 36 cores before, again, probably also 2 low power cores. And so, yeah, that is really exciting. Finally, I do not, like I said, know the low power core count. I do not know how many compute units are in these APUs as well. Unfortunately, I guess I can tell you as much or more than what is in Medusa.
I'm going to guess between 40 and 60, Tom.
Yes, it could be 64 actually, I think. So
damn it.
Fake leaker Dan called out again. But yeah, so at a minimum though, I did see, I think I pulled this from the video, but I guess I will exclusively say this, that it should at least be 20 to 35% faster. Mm-hmm. I know it's early. That's not very specific, but one person did tell me that about Grimlock Halo. So if I were to guess what's going on here, it's probably like 64 compute units of RDNA 5.5 or RDNA 5. But again, I don't know for sure. If it's not
64, I'm going to say you were wrong and you're going to eat your words, Tom. So
Moore's Law is dead, humiliated again. But yeah, I know there's probably a lot of people wondering that. Maybe I'll put that as a little note in the video as well, that this is kind of a small soft leak, but that's tentatively what I would expect them to do with Grimlock Halo, is go from 48 to either keep 48 but have it be a better architecture, or hit 64 cores and give you maybe 25-35% more performance. I think it's a quicker follow on too, so they wouldn't be as hard to do that. I think, again, this is half speculation based on a very loose thing I was told. I know there's people that are wondering. Point is though, final thing, Zen 7 Epic will launch first, maybe honestly at the very end of 2027 from what I've seen in some docs, at a minimum though in the first half of 2028. And then they want to get the entire lineup out before the end of 2028. And so, look, things can change quickly, but so far, this looks like a very aggressive kind of Zen 2 to Zen 3 follow-on that shouldn't take as long to get out, because it uses the same I/O dies and layouts, by the way, as Zen 6, as it did to go from, of course, Zen 3 to Zen 4 or 4 to 5, where there were new architectures or platforms. Dan, what do you think about Grimlock?
I mean, I think it's mostly good news. The only piece of bad news, I guess, in my mind, is that the Silver King, right? Yeah, Silver King CCD doesn't allow for Vcache, because I still think that 8-core Vcache variant is the gaming king. But obviously, we've talked about like what will happen to like their various their various sectors in the market with the expansion of 16-core, with them doing 16-core CCDs now. And now that we know there's also 8, okay, well, 8 will still be a thing. But my guess would be they're going to move to like still the 12-core being their big gaming CPU now, where 8-core becomes the not premium thing anymore still. So it would be nice to see that have Vcache still, because that and the 6 cores with Vcache are still great for gaming. And I think what most people, if we're being honest, need for gaming if they're not trying to break the bank. But I don't know. I guess we're probably going to see prices go up, and 12 or 10 cores or whatever become the new 8 cores this time around.
Yeah, I mean, if you think about the way they'd probably segment this, and I've said this, I think multiple times now, including in the video, like, I'm sorry, 32 cores of Zen 7 X3D is what could be the top chip. Guys,
yeah, it could be $1,000. That could be like $1,000.
I don't think they charge less than $1,000 unless they have to. Unless Intel has something just as good for $700, then they will go cheaper. Because trust me, they can afford to. They could afford to sell the 9950 X3D2 that launches after CES or whatever. That could be $500 if they wanted it to be $400. Like, the amount of silicon in these CPUs is so much less than what's in their graphics cards they sell for the same price, and doesn't come with some big fancy cooler usually. Just saying, they could afford to go less, but assuming they're still in at least a somewhat dominant position, even to put this in perspective, Zen 7 from Zen 5, which is, the current strongest chip you can get right now on desktop, you're going from 4 nanometer to 3 nanometer to 2 nanometer to A14. So what is that, like 3 full node jumps? I believe that's like the equivalent of going from like something like, I don't know, Zen Plus to Zen 4. Like, what if Zen 4 wasn't on AM5? They kept it for AM4 and gave it Vcache or something. Like, that's the leap. So go look up how much faster Zen 4 X3D is than Zen Plus. Like, that could be the difference we're looking at here. And because of that, the current like $12,000 96-core Threadripper, I think a 32-core Zen 7 might have similar multi-threading. Not 100% sure, but it could. And from that perspective, they're bringing $12,000 multi-threading to $1,000 on desktop. 1,000 might be too cheap. I'm just being honest with all.
Yeah, well, yeah, and if they added a lot of I/O, I mean, yeah,
again,
this could
yes,
be
this
could be the new like HED or sub HEDT thing type of desktop that comes out.
Yeah, so let's be very clear about this. Like, if they charge even $1,200 for this thing, look, I don't know what to tell you. I think you can get a 9950X3D for like $600 right now. Guys, this will be 3 times the multi-threading of that, and probably 50% more at least gaming performance for double the price. Like, it's almost a bargain even at $1,200. So I think there's no way around it. And this is I'm bringing it full circle down to the 8-core Without X3D. They still have a huge lineup here. I mean, my guess is they'll do some, or I shouldn't say guess, what I would do if I was them. $1,000 32 core double X3D. Then I would go down to 28 cores with 1 CCD having X3D for like 800. So it's like only 4 less cores, but less cache, worse, clocks, like still flagship tier compared to what we have now by a mile. And then I would go down to a single 16 core CCD with Vcache for like $600. Yeah. And then go down to a 14 core with Vcache. Because again, guys, these are 100 millimeter squared chips on A14. I don't think they're going to need to disable that many cores. Maybe 12 cores with X3D. Maybe that. And that would be like what you get, or maybe not even X3D, maybe just the drag yields for like $500. Like, or maybe 350 or 450. Like, you're already getting to the point where you're not even going to get to that tiny 56 millimeter squared 8-core until you're well below $400, where they probably don't want to put X3D on it anyways for pricing reasons. You see what I mean?
Yeah.
Like remember, they're going to 32 cores, not 16. So like this 8-core is probably going to be whatever the 600X is. It's probably going to be $300. It's a tiny die. Or it's the bad yields of
who the
laptop.
hell knows? Maybe it's like the 500X at that point too. Like, I don't know.
If Intel was aggressive, it might be. Actually, it might be. I don't think it will be, but it could be. It could be the 500X, and so that's why it doesn't have it, because they're going to take I believe, the most efficient yields, send that to laptop, and then they will take the less efficient yields and also use that on like laptop or something, and maybe some embedded server stuff. And then the worst yields, the ones that they can't get 6 gigahertz, I guess probably with this. Like, they can't clock this 6 gigahertz chip in a 45 watt APU. So they'll do 5.8 gigahertz at 95 watts on desktop, and no one will care. That's what this is.
Yeah.
This is budget. And again, it's because there's no way they would ever have to cut down 16 cores to 8. And yet the top sellers on Amazon are all 8 cores. So it makes sense to just focus on that as a main offering, because AMD believes 8 cores will be very popular for a long time to come.
I mean, yeah. And that's why I could still see them trying to like make their 8-core their big seller. Like, I obviously with this, I don't think that's going to be the case, but I could still see it because 8 cores really is, I think, the sweet spot for gaming, at least right now. But them moving away from having Vcache on their 8-core CCD, I think obviously signals that they're going to be going towards, I don't know, one of the disabled single CCD 16-core CCDs will probably be the new 8-core. I just don't know how disabled they're going to even need to make it.
Yeah. But I'm trying to think if there was anything else. Like I say, and like Carbon Cry actually said in the write-up here, like, the amount of information on this leak is just ridiculous.
Oodles.
Oh. like it is just a ridiculous amount of stuff. I'm trying to see if there's anything. I mean, I literally have exact benchmarks, like at different power consumption levels listed, and I show pictures to back up as many of the things as I could that I thought was safe to show to not get the source in trouble. So, I mean, I guess the final thing to point out is this thing looks ridiculously efficient. Like at 12 watts per core. So if you had an 8-core, that's like a 125 watt chip. Right? Maybe 95, somewhere in that ballpark, whatever they would end up going to. We're talking about like a standard desktop 8-core. Zen 7 is 20 to 25% faster than Zen 6 per core. But when you go down to 3 watts per core, so if you had to think about it, a 12 core, that's 36 watts. We're talking APU form factors here. At 3 watts per core, it's 30 to 36% faster than Zen 6 per core. So this is a large uplift again. And that's a big point I make in the video, is just, seriously, guys, Zen 6 and Zen 7 both look like haymakers. This looks like Zen 2 and 3, boom, boom, right after one after another here. And so whenever you see Nova Lake leaks, Nova Lake better match Zen 6 or beat it, because from what I can tell, and maybe I'll change this. I have a Razor Lake leak coming, but Razor Lake, which comes after Nova Lake, is going to be a good uplift, but I think it's going to be more, what would I compare it to? Kind of more like a Zen 5 than a Zen 4 uplift, you know. That sounds bad because Zen 5 really fell flat in some departments.
But it wasn't terrible. I don't know.
No, yeah, I mean, it's, I don't want to say an exact number though, but like, you're looking at more like a Raptor Lake over, well, that had the big multi-threading thing too, so we'll see. You're looking like something like that. Then you are looking at something like a full generational uplift. And Zen 7 over Zen 6 looks like a massive generational uplift after Zen 6 is almost a double generational uplift. This is outrageous. Again, get what you need when you need it. Don't wait. Like if you need a new CPU now, sure, get the 9950X 3D2. It'll be amazing, because if you wait for Zen 6, then you'll be waiting for Zen 7. I think it just it looks crazy. Let me see here. Techno writes in, how has Strix Halo succeeded where KB Lake G failed? I mean, honestly, man, I don't even know where you'd want me to start. I mean, KB Lake G, the Vega H KB Lake hybrid APU.
I forgot about
AMD
that.
and Intel before AMD was competing again. So Intel felt bad for AMD and let them even put a GPU chiplet in their products like Nvidia is doing for Intel now. Oh, how the tables.
Turntables.
I can even say the jokey way, right? How the turntables. Look, KB Lake G had near zero support. I mean, it was in like a couple of niche laptops and a mini PC, and it seems like a new mini PC or handheld is announced with Strix Halo every day. And we've already covered this in the last news episode that Strix Halo is getting more models and OEM support next year. Not the case with KB Lake G. I also believe it lost official driver support after 1 or 2 years. It was complete terrible. And I sent it back. I had a video where I trashed AMD. Actually, unfortunately, I had that video drop the same day I'd already made it, that I woke up to Scott Herkelman at AMD complimenting my channel, and I was like, AMD, F this up.
Screw you, Scott Herkelman.
Nobody doesn't think I'm giving him a middle finger, but it is what it is. To all those who think I'm an AMD fanboy, Scott Herkelman directly compliments me, and I give AMD the finger that day. But I sent it back because it just didn't work. I mean, the driver issues were just systemic, and it's the opposite with Strix Halo. Strix Halo's drivers are immaculate. The best, the most stable Windows system I've used in my life, more stable than my desktop. It's crazy. So, why did it succeed and KB Lake fail? Because it did literally everything differently and better. All right. Continuing with the AMD train, let us move on to story number 5.
Shoot, shoot.
AMD confirms Zen 6, Zen 7, and RDNA 5 details. Kind of. Just a few days after our bombshell leak about Grimlock, AMD had their financial analyst day, and as often happens on these days, they revealed not just a lot about their current state, but also confirmed a ton of stuff Moore's Law is dead leaked. On the CPU front, AMD confirmed that Zen 6 does indeed use an N2 node, and that Zen 7 uses a future node. What future node? We know already, A14. Mark Papermaster was so kind as to also confirm our information on Zen 7 having matrix math acceleration built into its cores. Again, directly backing up things that were leaked about Zen 7 days after they were put out by this channel. Also, with Zen 6, they confirmed that Epic Venice will go up to 256 cores. Well, we leaked that almost 2 full years ago, bringing the thread density up by about a third. So, GPU talk
power hour.
Yes, another Moore's Law said power hour where AMD just goes, this was right, this was right, this was right. But yeah, the GPU talk centered mainly around AI and CDNA. We had CDNA 5 confirmed, which is interesting because everyone keeps hyping up something called UDNA when that may have just been a placeholder name for a concept. However, though, in the camp of those people, they just said Radeon RDNA next, I'm sorry, they didn't even say RDNA next. They just said after RDNA 4, next gen. No UDNA, no RDNA. So who knows? Maybe they will change the name. In general, though, that would tell me that for a server, they feel it's a good idea to keep calling it CDNA. Whatever they do, with the next generation, where we know they have to change the name in general anyways for the branding because of RX 9000 is over. It sounds like they might want to do an overhaul of the entire Radeon branding with RDNA 5. But again, we will see.
Or it's not called RDNA 5 anymore. Who knows?
But again, I mean, this is right. This is something that I'm trying to think of another. What's another, like, they called them Zen C cores for cloud cores because cloud was the buzzword of the year. Remember? Because everything was the cloud after everything was DNA. Now it's AI. But behind the scenes, they still call those dense cores because that's what they were originally called. So it is worth pointing out that whatever they end up calling the RDNA 5 series, all documents, some of them I've already leaked to you guys publicly, they say RDNA 5. But I just want to be sure they're going to call it UDNA. It might just be something new. The robotics generation, whatever comes after AI in terms of hype.
RAI.
Really hope not.
I don't know. That's kind of what I feel the most I have to read into this at this point is it seems like I don't know with AMD if they're just addicted to changing their branding or what, because it seems like for some reason now they think they've burned RDNA as a brand, even though I think RDNA 4 in a lot of ways is kind of the best.
Rejuvenated the brand,
yeah, maybe not the best received, but it definitely rejuvenated RDNA. Like RDNA 2 is probably the best received at the time, I would think. But
oh yeah,
I don't know. RDNA 4, well received. I guess now it's time to change it now that if we do this 2 generations in a row, you might actually have like a thing going and people might just have some brand recognition, AMD. But I guess we'll do something else now for something completely different.
Yes. What I will say additionally, I'll just skip the rest of the write-up and go to like other little things I noted. The AI performance in the APU chart, they directly confirm Medusa, again, confirming Moore's Law stick code names, and Gorgon Point. But I believe it was interesting that on the chart, they made it look like Strix to Medusa was the same leap as like Phoenix or Hawk Point, like Phoenix to Strix, or to Gorgon Point. So like, this further backs up what I'm seeing with all of the Zen 6 APUs of like, ooh, this is like a really big one, like Renoir or Rembrandt, like a massive uplit generation. They don't actually say what they mean by AI, so I don't know if it's just the NPU or whatever, but I think just in general, I think you can read into that a little. Zen 6 is the biggest one on that's going to come from the last couple of years, last 2 generations, and the next 1 or 2. Like Zen 6 is a massive overhaul of everything, and that includes their APUs. The only other thing I wrote down is I got a vibe that AMD knows they can't screw up. Like they were like really like, we're going to execute on time. We know it's tough. I think they know that a lot of people are concerned about all of the welfare checks Intel's getting right now. And the fact that Nvidia, after they cash those welfare checks, is going to back them up with tiles. So AMD knows that their investors expect them to actually get everything out on time and execute on them well for the next few years so they can get to a solid level of market share before all of that happens. But that was my takeaways. I don't know if you saw anything from this or what your thoughts were.
No, I mean, I don't think there's really much else to say, but yeah, I mean, AMD could run the risk of falling behind like what happened with Intel in the run up to Zen 4. I mean, not Zen 4, Zen, when they seemingly got complacent. Oh, that's why I think I said 4, when they were stuck on 4 cores for a million generations. But
let me see. But yeah, let me see here. Jensen Wang. All will be NVIDIA writes in and says, with AMD at 40% server and 28% client revenue share, when do you think they'll be able to book the capacity at TSMC to shoot up their client share as hard as they have done in server? I think they're going to probably do that with Zen 6 and 7. I mean, I guess, that's not my job to look into what's going on, ask DigiTimes, those people, like, who's booking what capacity. But I think Zen 6 and 7 is when they go for it, especially with rumors, including out of us, that Zen 6 desktop might be delayed. You could see them try to accelerate the laptop releases perhaps and put that on the back burner a little bit because they know, man, now is the time to go for a laptop. So I think they're going to.
Yeah, they've been slowly building brand recognition and been well received now for what, 5 years, 3, like 5 years at this point, I feel like. Yeah, now is the time to do it.
And I think the ways that they will do it in desktop is very simple. I've talked about this. I think the 9950X3D2 is going to be them juicing Zen 5 as hard as possible to make up for the fact that Zen 6 desktop might get delayed. But in doing so, get something out even faster than they have now, cementing their lead even more than they do now. Having things like the 7500X3D for the budget lane as well. And next year, before Nova Lake launches, which there's some questions on if that could slip to 2027 as well, by the way, just mopping up the market with budget comparatively to expensive 2nm stuff, 4nm X3D products, all 2026. And then Nova Lake drops, and then they just go ham with N2X desktop Zen 6 and try to win by like double digits or something. So I think that seems to be their plan there, to Jensen Wang's question. But let us move on. Now, speaking of vacuuming up, let us move on to the companies vacuuming up all of the money in the stock market. With Story, Dan's face was like, how is he going to do this transition? With Story, number 6.
This piece of content is brought to you by the fans that support the independent journalism of Moore's Law is Dead on Patreon. And it does need supporting. From personal attacks from tech elites that get mad when we tell you that they are lying to gamers and their own shareholders, to legal attacks from mega corporations that cost the team time and money. This is expensive and often very stressful work. And it's work that doesn't depend on access journalism, nor depend on NDAs or agreements that would sanitize our opinions and hold us back. No, nothing holds us back, and we are independently funded, and we use said funding to do things like pay professional renderers to show you products before they come out so that the sources that provided us the original pictures don't get in trouble. Or we also create bonus content like Die Shrinks, where you have videos and interviews coming out multiple times a month exclusively to reward our patrons with the extra content that we know they would like to see, whether it's inside scoops or more in-depth conversation and stuff that we just know wouldn't profit if we put it out publicly, but it doesn't need to profit for our fans on Patreon because it is self-funded. And so if you want any of that bonus content, or you want to support the independent journalism of Moore's Law is Dead, or honestly, if you just want to support me, Dan, Gerard, Carbon Cry, or Jesse and Maurice so that we have food on the table every day, consider supporting Moore's Law is Dead on Patreon. And to those that already support us there, I'll see you on the Discord.
Is the AI bubble already popping? Quoting first from Business Insider and then CNN. Michael Burry is sounding an awful lot like the investor who shorted Enron. The famed short seller of the Big Short fame issued a new warning about the biggest AI stocks in a post on his X account on Monday. Burry, who recently came out of a social media hiatus and is known for writing cryptic and frequently bearish posts about markets and the economy, said he was concerned about hyperscalers, the mega cap tech firms like Meta, Oracle, and Microsoft that are shelling out big on AI infrastructure. Then, quoting, like I said, from CNN, OpenAI's CFO Sarah Fryer raised eyebrows on Wednesday when she suggested that the U.S. government should backstop the company's aggressive investments in artificial intelligence infrastructure. This caused a huge worry that they don't have any money and they need welfare checks to keep things going. By Thursday, OpenAI's CEO Sam Altman stepped in to try to further clarify the company's position on a government backstop. Altman reiterated that the company does not have or want government guarantees for OpenAI data centers. Let me also add on to this one as well. It's not in the write-up. Also, Sam Altman gave a horrible answer on a podcast that was a puff piece interview with one of his friends. Also, Satya Nadella was there, so better behavior if you're the CEO of Microsoft. But where he was basically asked, what do you say to people who say your company's overvalued? And he said, well, why don't you sell your shares? I'm sure I can find someone to buy them from you. And the reason that's such a bad answer is because people are genuinely worried, but also that's such a fucking easy answer. All you do is go find this one company from then, this one company from here that everyone counted against, had this multiple in the 1800s, and yet it was like, that's such an easy softball answer. You should be prepared to answer, especially in a nice way that it was asked from a friend. And the way he got so defensive, the way the Palantir CEO is getting so defensive at being shorted, it's not how you answer. It's not what you answer. It's how you answer. It's not if you answer it. It's how you answer it. And how they're answering tells me they're nervous. But anyways, finishing up this right up here. Continue with the AI theme. Is the bubble ready to pop? Well, if you ask Moore's Law is Dead's chief market pessimist who wrote this, Carbon Cry, he would argue we've been in a bubble since 2009 and are due for a massive crash. Yes, Carbon Cry is one of those people, Dan. Now, moving away from our contributor's tinfoil hat thoughts, which he wrote that part, I'm not insulting him. Michael Burry sure seems to at least agree with Carbon Cry on the AI bubble bursting. And he put $1 billion on a short of big AI stocks, namely Nvidia and Palantir. I do think that's worth pointing out. It's like a $1 million short here. That's a hell of a short.
That's a big
he
short.
Could lose everything. So there are also continuing and ever louder reports of failed AI usage in corporate, with companies rehiring people to positions they said they wouldn't need them for because of AI. Or as Salesforce's financials show, that despite boasting of how much work AI is doing in their company, their payroll hasn't gone down at all, suggesting they're not using it. Much more worrying is OpenAI is testing the waters for U.S. and government aid, suggesting they've run out of money. Sam Altman quickly backtracked, but his CFO suggested the government underwrites OpenAI's loans. All this said, there's too much AI enthusiasm, we do think. On Burry himself, though, let us be fair. He has a track record of predicting a big crash every couple of years, so he is hardly a strong authority on the issue. Although putting $1 billion behind this one, doing it, backing it with $1 billion this time tells you he might actually mean it. But anyways, also, most of his short, by the way, over 90% of it is on Palantir. Well, I thought I saw like a 300x earnings multiple, which is absurd. So,
or Peter Thiel.
And Palantir also has its own problems outside of AI bubbles. So Burry might just be using the AI bubble rhetoric as a way to get a lot of notice for PR for this short. So as much of us would want the bubble to burst, maybe, so that it doesn't get too big before it hurts more people, or so we can actually get reasonably priced graphics cards, it might take a lot more to crack it than this. We do actually think. In other words, we're not telling you the bubble's going to crack tomorrow. We just think every now and then this is a good thing to check in on.
Yeah, and a lot of people hate Peter Thiel, so I could see this just being like
there's some emails here with the guy he's friends with, apparently.
Oh, this could just be a like slug match that Burry is trying to use as a, I don't know what you would say, like you said, gin up support to attack Peter Thiel, because no one likes Peter Thiel. Mm-hmm. Except for all the comments that are like going to be now, Peter Thiel's my favorite CEO. What are you talking about? It was awesome what he did to Drudge.
Yeah. South Park loves him for their ratings. Put it that way. But I don't know how much more I really have to add to this. This is kind of like when we talk about tariffs or shortages. It's like, this is a check-in. This isn't something we would really make sense for us to talk about every week, but it does make sense every now and then to check in, because this is the number one thing affecting the price of gaming products right now. So like, it would be silly for us to not let you guys know that no, things are going on in the AI space, and it is starting to look very toppy.
Yeah, to me, I guess the most I have to say is it really does feel like all of these big leaders in AI do seem to be a little bit nervous right now, as I don't know. I do feel like for a long time, AI, the way it's been discussed, is it's almost like when you voice skepticism about AI, there was almost like I don't know how you put it. It's like, like the argument against it is this guy is just a Luddite. And then as time goes on more and more, it's like, well, at a certain point, you do need to start convincing people like why they would want this. Or else you just kind of sound like an asshole. Like when someone, or like your friend maybe, asks you, why is your company worth what it is, in a nice way, and you kind of get weirdly defensive and can't really answer why it's a valuable stock, because what your company does primarily seems to be put out really weird looking AI videos of you, Sam Altman, in your new Sora app. That's like the main product, is really, really bad AI videos of you for some reason.
Very, very cool stuff. Yes. But yeah, I mean, I guess I'd be remiss too if I didn't plug I think it was the last guest? No, it was the second, almost the last guest, Ed Elson from the Prophecy Markets show. If you want any more talk about this, It's a very evergreen episode where we outline what a bubble is, why this would be a bubble, and what you should look for when it would pop. Cannot promote that enough. I think it was one of Broken Silicon's best episodes. It's one of those episodes where half the comments were, this is the best episode. So please check that out.
And we don't need more of my probably less informed than Ed Nelson's dumping on
just dumping on AI.
On AI.
Yeah. All right. Jensen Wang writes in and he says, it is very different this time, Tom. The last bubble, miming, was a false bubble because, like I said, it was a Fortnite boom combined with AI growing slowly into a sustainable method, which it has continued to do so through this day. Buy Nvidia before a bubble inflates the price. This is not financial advice.
Thanks. Thank you, Jensen.
Thank you, Jensen, for chiming in. Techno writes in, everyone is talking about RAM going up in price. However, I want to point something out. CPU coolers are getting exponentially more expensive, especially the cheaper ones. The Thermaltake Peerless Assassin was 25 quid. Now it's 50. The Thermalright Phantom Spirit was 35 pounds, now 60. Noctua NHG 15 G2 was 80, now 130. Jeez. The ID Cooling Frozen 8 A620 was 25. Now it's 50 pounds. Yeah, I haven't paid attention to this. I saw some, thank you for noticing this, Techno. I saw some discussion of this in the Moore's Law Said Discord, and all I would say is, guys, all of these things are connected. Like if heat sinks, a lot of these companies that would be making the heat sinks for budget coolers would also be making heat sinks for servers in at least some indirect way, if not directly. And yeah, I mean, they might be running out of supply for gamers. So that's another thing to look out for.
Well, yeah, and I don't know, I guess copper's gone up in price a decent amount over the past several months. So maybe that's what
How much has it gone up?
It's not like it's crazy, but there was a crash. Oh, there was a crash in July for some reason, and it's been going up steadily over the past 7 months.
Yeah,
so that's probably not why it's gone up.
Yeah, probably not right now, unless they manufacture them in July, which they actually could have, and then ship them. Now that I think about it, so maybe. But there's a lot of things that can affect this. You know, shortages in one area are going to cause prices to go up in another. The first thing they're going to cut if they have to supply Oracle a bunch of heat sinks for a server, the number one thing they're going to cut is gamer supply. I mean, that's unfortunate. All right. Let us now move on to the wrap up with, let's see here. So this one's an interesting one here. I almost made this a story because the way some places reported on it, I thought was disgusting. Not TechSpot, at least as of this writing. But like the DGX Spark Mini AI PC, the $4,000 AI micro PC, really ran Cyberpunk horribly. And then I saw a bunch of websites, of course, Asana, WCCF Tech, as you will, and video cards posting press releases from Nvidia a day or two afterwards saying, well, with multi-frame gen, you can get to 100. And so Jesus. I just thought this was worth covering because two things. Number one, clearly, again, Nvidia's ARM APU is not really ready for Windows, it seems, or really for gaming. It needs better software. That is why I think they launched it to AI first, obviously, also to milk AI. Number two, look at a list of the websites that just shield another Nvidia press release again. I mean, it's just really, we're going to say because of multi-frame gen, you can get 175 frames, and it's really if you do this. I don't know.
Yeah, well, Tom, that's why you're meant to use this with multi-frame gen. That's what this is for.
Yeah. To be fair, I do believe Nvidia posted some official ways to try to get it running better, but the fact that making the headline with 4 times frame gen, it's good. Might as well be owned by Nvidia. Yeah. Intel confirms AVX 10.2 and APX for Nova Lake. There you go. I know there were rumors it wouldn't get that. Not rumors sent out by this channel. Just FYI, because I actually did see quite a lot of comments asking me that. Additionally, we have the 9500F technically launched, got reviewed. You can get it right now. I think I saw it for like, $250-ish, or I don't remember the exact price. Maybe I should, though. If I'm going to talk about it, it'd probably be my job. Let me see here.
Well, is the 9500F, is that like only available in China right now or something, though?
Yes, I thought I saw it. Let me see. Oh, yeah, you're probably right. Let me see.
You can get it for
$219. Okay.
Oh, never mind. AliExpress is just being stupid. Never mind.
But yeah. So, I mean, if it does come to the US at an even lower price eventually, like these things tend to do eventually, it's worth pointing out that Hardware Unboxed found the thing was basically just a 9600. I mean, the exact same thing. So, something to look out for. Always more budget chips coming out. FSR Redstone launching with Black Ops 7. It sounds like it's not really finished, though. I asked Carbon Cry if he thought that we should do a full story on this. But probably not yet. Not until it's officially out with, like, is Black Ops 7 out now? Am I going to make myself look dumb again?
It should be coming out soon if it's
not
I know
out yet. Soon. It literally just came out as of us recording this. And so it's going to take time for, I think, full, proper Redstone analyses. But, perhaps the next news episode, we will have full breakdowns and that can be its own story. Just FYI, we're not going to cover it here. What I would say is if it's some beta early version is in Black Ops 7 now, I think, this, an update for FSR 4 coming to RDNA 3 and PlayStation 5 Pro. I think that's all definitely happening Q1 if we've got some version of that here. A link I have here just kind of for fun. Someone turned a $120 PlayStation 5 mining board into a working gaming PC that can run Cyberpunk 2077. I thought this was funny because I remember mixing up some leaks with code names that were for PS5 mining dies. Remember? I know they actually made them. I thought they were just canceled. I didn't realize these were actually sold.
That's interesting.
Or at least I didn't know they were produced at a minimum.
Yeah, you can turn your PS5 into a PC officially, Tom. Or unofficially.
My PS5 mining board.
Yes, mining board into a PC.
Also, did you look into this? I haven't, but I've seen the headlines. Horizon MMO is coming?
I saw MMO and I was like, oh, so not for me.
It's funny how when you look at what all the characters look like, it's like they took the traditional characters from a Horizon game and they just gave them like a Monster Hunter Wilds or
and it
Asia
doesn't
MMO
look like
filter.
It doesn't look like Horizon anymore. The game looks like Horizon, but the character models don't look like Horizon anymore.
Yeah, so I don't really know what to say. Not an MMO person, but I thought that was interesting. Also, a new cheaper PS5 is coming to Japan. Only for Japan, though.
Mm-hmm.
If that has to do with tariffs,
Japan. Maybe.
Maybe. Or I know they do with the Switch 2 as well. Sometimes they just lock it down further, and then that's like a way to try to get inroads with their own people, or like try to build up market share in their own country that honestly is now way behind where it goes in the US.
I guess we'll just have to take a vacation to Japan, Tom, to get this PS5.
This for like $50 less or whatever. Yeah.
That's why we're going to. That's why I'm taking a vacation to Japan. I'm not actually taking a vacation.
Now I will say, if this was a PlayStation podcast, not just a general purpose gaming hardware podcast, the Sony planning cross-buy feature for PC and PlayStation would be its own story. This is in the wrap up as well. This is absolutely huge. I mean, it would probably be its own PlayStation launcher. Unfortunately, not something for Steam, but that is interesting. Because I've held Iris 2 on PS5. It'd be nice if I could play it on PC as well without buying it again. And I have, what do I have? What PlayStation game do I have on? I have a couple of PlayStation games for benchmarking on PC. It'd be cool if it also gave you it on PlayStation. This is interesting. This would further make it so that actually Valve and Sony and Microsoft are just directly competing in the exact same way.
Yeah, I don't have much to add to this other than, I'm excited for if this actually comes to fruition.
And again, why would Sony do this? I think people underestimate how much this is early when Microsoft's trying to save the Xbox brand. How much money is Sony really going to lose giving you cross-buy? Maybe lower sales 5% overall. But if it is that one extra thing to lower sales for Xbox, take one more argument away from Xbox when they're at death's door. That's how I see this.
Yeah.
And then also final story, Valve says it has a pretty good idea of what Steam Deck 2 is going to be, directly confirming there will be a second one, although I don't know if that probably was already confirmed.
I think everybody would have guessed that anyways.
But he says it has to be a lot better, basically. And they're holding off until they believe they can get something that's, he says, like, yeah, 50% more performance, double, that's not going to be enough. We want it to seem like a fundamentally different device. Like in terms of battery. Yeah, and he said the same thing in battery life. That's what I also heard, as I said years ago, but I've never gotten an update from my sources connected to this since then about it. But like basically, they don't just want to give you like, 4 times the performance, whatever.
Yeah.
They want to give you like 6 times the performance and do so by making the form factor smaller and giving you that solid 8-hour battery life for at least 4 hours consistently, I would say. Like they do not just want to like take the same thing and go, it's still 20 watts basically, and now it's 4 times better. They want a lot better, and they want it to be something that feels a lot less bulky. Again, something like I think PlayStation is going to do with the PlayStation 6 handheld. They're not going for some 30-watt thing. They're going for like 5 to 10 watts and hitting PS5 performance or better.
Yeah.
So I think that's worth talking about, though. It's interesting.
So maybe Zen 8. I don't know.
I would say Zen 7 is what it sounds like, at least. I mean, if you look at like Zen 7, which perfect, we just covered that in this episode. You're looking at 36% more performance at 3 watts. I think I've seen some documents that suggested it could be more, like 40% or more performance when you get down to 1 watt. They might be there with Zen 7 low power, like half a watt per core, 8 cores. So that's 4 watts for that, 5 watts for the GPU, maybe, and 2 nanometer or something. Well, I guess I don't know, maybe A14, but who knows what this version would be. It wouldn't surprise me if there's a budget 2 nanometer version of Zen 7. We'll see. But you could see them getting what is now a 20 watt APU to 10 watts, and then having that thing be, instead of, what is it, like, what is it? I think it's 800p, 40 frames per second is what most of their games run. Maybe you could get this to like 1600p, 90 frames per second in OLED. And to get there with the current games being just the same games, yeah, you're looking at like 8 times the performance there if you wanted to do that. So like they still need a lot more, and I think earliest would be Zen 7. I agree.
Yeah, I guess it depends, because I don't think they would want to put Halo in there. It would probably be whatever point is available at the time that they would want to put in. Or I guess I don't know how small of an SoC they're always going to end up going with. Like if they're going to go with a more mid-tier one, or if they're still going to be doing the more the really small ones for the time going forward, just because it uses less energy. But
I think based on these statements, small. I think for sure. It's just, it might be a little more premium because they might just use like A14, or like they might go for the node. But what I would hope they also do is still have like a Steam Deck 2 Lite that is like, oh, we're just going to keep the same resolution screen, but now it's like 4 times faster, and like you can maybe use a cheaper battery, the old form factor. There you go. There's your budget one. But then here's the $800 one that, brings you AAA PS6 gaming into Steam Deck form factors or something. Because they're going to have to deal with the PlayStation 6 handheld. So that's what the PlayStation 6 handheld is going to do. So they're going to have to do it better, since it will come out later. All right. Well, Dan, no final reader mails. I pushed them into earlier in the episode. So that will do it for this one. I want to thank everybody for watching and listening. Please remember to like the video if you're on mobile, hype the video, comment down below, share the video. Ring the bell button, go to the YouTube wizard and the well that you have to go to promote channels. Like anything you have to do, please promote, share, comment. It does help the channel a lot. And also please support us on Patreon. Seriously, like we just had a die shrink come out doing kind of a behind the scenes on where leaks come from. Like that's there for the $2 tier and higher. Also gets you access to a Discord with thousands of Moore's Law's Dead patrons who love to talk with you, including me. And you'll be able to ask the next guest questions and get access to dozens of Die Shrink episodes, even at the $1 tier. The next guest is, sadly, it's Bradley. I consider pretty much the authority on Valve info. So what great timing. He hasn't been on for, I believe, over 2 years. Can't wait to have him on again.
His name might be sadly it's Bradley, but I'm happy Bradley.
But we're happy Bradley is broken silicon. Maybe. Maybe. I don't know. I'm done. I'm getting tired. Dan, any final words?
No, I don't think so.
One more time, some last minute final rambling as always. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. Have a good rest of your week, everybody.
Goodbye.
This podcast was brought to you by the YouTube channel and website Moore's Law is Dead. Moore's Law is Dead and Broken Silicon are trademarks of their creator, Tom. That guy is me, and I am indeed the creator, editor, writer, and showrunner of Moore's Law is Dead podcasts, videos, articles, and other media. However, it's not just me. Moore's Law is Dead is a team, with Broken Silicon co-hosted by my brother Dan, audio editing by Gerard Cortez, renders being done by the industrial designer Jean-Philippe Clermont, and special assistance is also provided by Carmen Cry and Carrie Nosugad as well. Find all of our information at www.mooreslawsdead.com on the about/support page in the event you do want to hire me for consulting work, hire Gerard for audio work, hire Jean-Philippe for industrial design work, or you're interested in working with Carbon Cry or Carrie Nosugada as well. You can also find our long-term sponsors on that page if you want to show them some love for putting food on our tables. Or you can also mail us some love. You can send letters or hardware donations to the following address: Moore's Law is Dead, P.O. Box 60632 in Nashville, Tennessee, zip code 37206. Although, to be honest, the best way to show Moore's Law is Dead some love is to support us on Patreon. Patrons are what makes Moore's Law is Dead content truly possible. Every month, and really every day, depending on who you're talking about, me, Gerard, Dan, and Jean-Philippe are working tirelessly to provide a steady stream of content that we could not keep doing unless we knew the work was possible without being reliant on sponsors dictating every little thing we put out. Don't get us wrong. We love our sponsors, but we love directly working for you, our fans, much more. If you have any extra money, even a couple free dollars a month, consider supporting us directly on Patreon. Those couple of monthly dollars will get you access to the exclusive podcast Die Shrink, voting on subjects of future podcast episodes, the ability to ask guest questions, and of course, access to the Moore's Law is Dead Discord full of like-minded people who I am sure would love to meet you. I am one of them. Additionally, higher tiers get access to early, ad-free episodes of Broken Silicon, the ability to ask questions in all Broken Silicon episodes and Loose Ends live streams ahead of the recording, and the entire back catalog of Moore's Law is Dead podcasts, in addition to having thanks in the credits of videos and podcasts depending on the tier, with other perks available as well. And hey, if you cannot afford to support us directly every month, please do share Moore's Law is Dead videos and podcasts with friends and family, and on social media and websites like Reddit, and give Broken Silicon a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts or your preferred podcast app of choice. All of this does really help us so much. But like I said, this podcast would not be possible without the patrons directly providing predictable and reliable support every month. And so now it is time to give a personal thanks to the greatest of the fans. The following supporters are at the 10 gigahertz or higher supported levels:
Brad Bedlin, Drita Fool, Z Jits, Daniel D, Nicholas Buckner, Aaron Close, Jan Rounder, Toka, MJB1, Daniel High, GZ Ziggy, SNES Chalmers, Jim Ferriero, Falco Malev, Jensen Wang, Compressed AI Block, Sarcastro, Chris Rich, Evan Dingle, Halbuma, Shredbird, Semi Malas, Curry King 3, Chris Anthinos, The Boss Haas, Tommy, Jonathan, Jake 223, Jake Martin, Slicky, Gamers Unite, Meat and Pork, Ian Clifford, Amiable Chief, Tim Robb, I Should, Travis Gooding, Zoot Suit Taylor, Mads, Patty Cakes, Greg, Michael McGee, Win Wang, Stephen Coates, Mark Mitchell, James Anderson, Mark Raidmaker, Salty Internet Pirate, Henry Zhang, Wesley Sager, Cameron, Michelle Pell, Hexapuma, Teak Autumn, Reginald Ari, Windstar, Little Germany, James I. Raider, Bart, Let's Go to the Lake, Milton, Brett Jones, Chuck Glidden, Stephen Dick, Mac Daffy, Justin Bustle, Austin Haggerty, Jofit, Brian Scanlon, Harthan, Brian Wright, Anson Ngima, Slushpa, John Swin, The Forbidden Juice, RB Racer, Matthew Cassels, Alex Vega, Solarized 80, Elbergun, Kikum, Sprutnik, Brian P, Hoodat 42, Cornster 671, Penta Winta, Dan M 1988, Omega Doge, Huger Ander Kiwi, Mr. Tiger, John Wick Boomstick, Penguins, Levi, Porcelain Oats, Nick Suzmania, Charles Russell, Smash Axley, Kareem Al Masri, AI Soldier 781, Bespoke exclamation point, Ryhal G Bulls, Fred Berger, Kevin Coots, Magnolis, Ragkusis, Jonathan Harris, Callan, Reichel, Kainush, Kagani, Johnny Trans, Zyber, Ahmed, Chuna, Josh, Arkeo, RK0, Penguins from NKVD, and Angel of Cake. And of course, thank you to Sahara for the music and for you putting up with me being really tired and stumbling through this one a little bit. Peace.